Hello everyone, I'm starting a new series of the beginnings and blurbs of my novels, and this time I'm looking at my fantasy fiction. The first of these is The Gifting, which is the first book in the Gathandrian epic fantasy series, and this is the blurb. One mind reader's precarious existence is about to be turned upside down. Simon Heartstongue is a mind reader, and Brandon a coward and a murderer. When his overlord, Ralph Tregannon, turns against him, he is forced to embark on a treacherous journey to the distant and magical land of Gathandria in order to save his country and his own soul. During a series of terrifying trials, Simon must encounter the trickery of the deadly mind executioner and the secret dealings of those he ought to trust. That's the blurb, and this is the beginning of it. Chapter 1. Capture. They came for Simon Heartstongue at night, 3 men from the village. He was at the fire, damping it down with water to make sure it was out. The boy from the poorhouse was with him. He'd been teaching him letters for a while, along with the rest of the villagers who still wanted his skills as scribe. Not many of them now, of course. Simon continued the boy's tutelage as he was sick of the banter and the blows the women gave the child, who never complained no matter what they did. He thought he might give the boy something, an apprenticeship of sorts, a skill his tormentors didn't have. It was the only gift he had to offer, which, for a man of 32 winters, was humiliating to have to admit, and still it wasn't enough. All that day something had been in the wind. Simon should have sensed it, but he hadn't, or at least had paid it no attention. He'd been too busy worrying about what Ralph Tregannon, the Lamisland's overlord, would ask him to do next. He'd also been preparing parchment and quills for the morning lessons. Not only that, but he was starting to consider whether it was time to move on, search for another place of refuge for one such as he, if he could find the strength and integrity for it, which he doubted. He could no longer sleep easily at night. All these thoughts had occupied him during the previous hours, and without knowing it, he was to pay for his lack of attention now. The knocking at the door alerted him to their visit first. If he'd been keeping his mind skills as sharp as he should have been, they should never have succeeded. But nearly 2-year cycles of Ralph's protection had dulled Simon's edges, making him weak. Once again, he had no one to blame but himself. The harsh noise made the boy jump. "Hush," Simon whispered, stilling him with one hand on his shoulder. "Go into the food store. There's an alcove at the back. Hide there, behind the curtain." Wide black eyes stared up at Simon, and he could see the sweat on the boy. His fear seeped through Simon's senses like a rock snake. "Do it," he said, this time more urgently, as the rapping came once more. The boy gave him one more wide-eyed look and was gone. "Wait a moment," Simon called, so that whoever was outside could hear him as his fingers hurried to hide parchments, quill pens, books in the drawers from where they'd come. "I'm not prepared for visitors, but I'm on my way." "You don't have a moment, Master Simon," a voice growled with menace. The North Country accent told him it was Thomas the blacksmith. Anything else Thomas might have said was overpowered by the sound of the door being rammed with something solid. The frame shook and the thin strips of wood splintered and cracked. "Wait!" Simon called again, trying to still the sudden shake of his hands. "I'm coming. Just be patient, won't you?" Fumbling with the mechanism, he caught a glimpse of his narrow features in the polished plate drying on the shelf. Slight, willowy, his brown hair combed back, brown eyes wide. Some thought him attractive, though he could never fathom why. He kept up a stream of meaningless words, trying to connect with the men in his mind in order to search out their intent. It was no use. His own fear was too strong for him. When at last he had no option but to open the door, the only advantage he had was the evidence of his eyes alone. He knew then that they wanted to kill him. That's the blurb and beginning of my fantasy novel, The Gifting. Hope you enjoyed that read. Have a great day. Bye.